Well, today's episode on a Monday is a very interesting one. Everything is all GCW. We're going to do the highest in the room, GCW versus Zona 23, the holiday special, Nick Gage Invitational 8, and then finally Aftermath. So we have five shows from GCW. And of course, we have no news updates for this particular episode. But this is going to be one crazy thing to review. All five remaining shows of 2023 with GCW in one episode. I don't think I've ever done this, but well, I cannot remember. But right now, let's get started with another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world where pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to get our hands on. We also do some news updates. If I'm unable to put it on this episode, I can put it on a separate episode as we speak. But also, we also do timely with the news updates to hear what's been going on, to give you guys alert on everything that's been happening, the United Sayaka Watch, and various other things. So if you like what you see, please give us a subscribe. So subscribe to us on the subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews. And of course, if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or leave us a nice comment in the description down below. Now, as I said before earlier in the start of this episode, we're going to do all GCW. The first one we're going to do is Highest in the Room 2. This one was in LA on December 9th at the Ukraine Cultural Center back at the UCC. As always, they do their shows there. Our first one is a non-title match. We have Jordan Oliver taking on Alec Price. Now, these two guys have uh, run in the same areas as always, facing off one each other. But it would be a very fantastic match if Alec Price could pick up a win against Jordan Oliver and get an opportunity of the JCW World Title. That is something that could be put on the discussion. However, he has to go against the East Coast Ace, of course, the Jordan Oliver. So that kind of puts out a pretty good match. But however, it was the acid bomb by Jordan Oliver that picked up the win. I mean, as much as I like to say Alec Price deserves to have a JCW World Title shot, I'm sure he'll get that in the near future some point. Now our next match, well, the most hated person in GCW, the so-called wannabes, the Deathmatch Royalty, Steph Delanders and Matt Cardona, who are claiming themselves that they are the real deathmatch wrestlers, are the ones in control. Not to mention they acquired Jimmy Lloyd. A lot of fans are disappointed in that, so they're calling him Broski um, um, Lloyd on this one. But they face against people that, of course, Jimmy's friends with. I mean, Los Macizos, Ciclope, and Miedo Extremo, where they team up with Little Cholo. But you can tell there's conflicting parts of him. Like, he cannot accept it, but he had to. But of course, it was the radio silence by Cardona to Ciclope to pick up the win. So basically, Jimmy Lloyd, he is trapped under that whole thing. Now, our next match is a DLC scramble match. In this, we have Ninja Mac versus Ratty Daddy Cole Radrick, Bodie Young Prodigy versus Mr. Danger versus Oni El Bandito versus one called Manners versus Dark Sheik. Now, these type of scramble matches, you all know anything could happen. Doesn't matter when or where. It just happens. You wouldn't expect it. It just does. So that kind of puts it in a perspective. But man, there was a lot of good high flying from Bandito himself. But it was Ninja Mac with a what was it? A Phoenix splash on Bodie Young Prodigy, where he put him away 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So Ninja Mac picked up the win. Our next match, well, we have a very interesting one. George South taking on Santana Jackson. That's right. Hee hee. But of course, there will be some moments where we're going to see some dancing routines with Santana Jackson. But George South was like, well, earlier before he starts the match, he was hating on the people of LA. And of course, LA were just booing him all the time. But one thing that was really interesting is that he, as you know, Santana Jackson, where does the Thriller segment where he wears the werewolf. But of course, George House is like, I'm not playing that game. But, well, apparently it did. Apparently, he got moonwalked DDT by Santana Jackson to pick up the win. So, yep, Michael Jackson wins. Our next match is the GCW Tag Team titles. Masha Slamovich and Rina Yamashita taking on Violence Forever, Dominic Garina, and Kevin Koo. Now, of course, there's going to be a lot of hefty plunder involved in this match because, as you know, that's the kind of specialty that Masha and Rina get involved. But however, Violence Forever, they've always been one of the teams that say their name, of course, is not a statement, is a matter of fact. But they were able to pick up a good fight. But instead, Violence Forever applied the Brainbuster combo onto Masha, and Violence Forever retained the belts. Yep. Next up, we got Big F and Joe taking on Sawyer Wreck. Oh man, this match was crazy, bloody murder death match. You know, it was all bleeding out. However, this match could have been won by Sawyer Wreck if it wasn't for the interference of Steph Delanders. As you know, she claims herself to be the queen of deathmatch wrestling. We all know that's not true, but she got involved. But sooner or later, Sawyer Wreck will get her payback against Steph Delanders for getting involved. Now, our next match, we have a very interesting tag match. We have uh, the South Pacific Savages, Juicy Finau and Jacob Fatu, taking on SGC, Effie, and Mance Warner. The match was great. I mean, of course, we know the SGC are very violent people. They are all about brutality. But however, there was a moment where Effie made a mistake and hit Mance Warner, which caused this match to fall in favor of the South Pacific Savages, with Fatu applying the moonsault. But out of nowhere, Mance Warner grabbed the chair and attacked Effie. So basically, we don't know what this means. I mean, Effie and Mance Warner, along with everybody in the SGC, have been very tight. But this was the most shocking moment ever happening in GCW. Next up, well, we have the GCW World Title, Starboy Charlie taking on that creep, Blake Christian. Of course, this was going to be a good match. Of course, will be some tactics coming from Christian to ensure this title stays around him. But however, his athletic abilities has always been the key factor in picking up the win when he applied the stomp, allowing for Blake Christian to retain the title. Now, our next match, we have Taya Valkyrie teaming up with her husband, Johnny Game Changer, or as we know him as Johnny Multiple, taking on Maki Def Kill, Nick Gage, and Maki Ito. Of course, this was going to be a very fun match and brutal. However, there was a very interesting moment between Maki Ito and Taya Valkyrie. Apparently, Taya Valkyrie applied the pinned Maki Ito, but used the tights in her favor to pick up the win. However, Maki Ito was saying things in Japanese, but Nick Gage said, translated for him, saying, "I want that bitch." So basically, Maki Ito wants a one-on-one match against Taya Valkyrie. Now, our main event. This was his, I believe, this is his debut with GCW, and I believe this is possibly going to be his only match in GCW. Andrade El Idolo taking on Joey Janela. Man, this match was brutal. I mean, you wouldn't expect Andrade to try to deal with like the bad boy, but Andrade being one of the hardest wrestlers we've seen, you know what he's capable of. But of course, this match ended with him applying the figure four, and of course, Joey had no choice but the tap. So I have to say there was some good matches. I mean, the storylines with Effie and Mansworth is going to continue on. I'll explain more about that later on in this episode. Andrade having his GCW debut, but I like to say this could be his only match in GCW and that sort of thing. But we'll see what happens down the line with in the future from here on out. But right now, let's move on with the next show, GCW versus Zona 23. All right, GCW versus Zona 23. Now, before I proceed, anybody who's unfamiliarized with Zona 23, this is a promotion down in Mexico in a location called the Junkyard. Now, the location itself is very secretive. Yes, they're an actual junkyard. I'm not joking. I'm not playing. It's for real. Now, I haven't seen much of their promotion, but I have seen clips on their promotion on YouTube. But GCW had made frequent visits down there in Mexico at the junkyard. Of course, I don't remember how many times they have done the GCW versus Zona 23, but yes, there's that. But the one thing that's interesting is this: that they went there. This trip took place on the 10th of December. But however, it wasn't broadcast until Christmas Eve, which of course I keep repeating myself about this, which was my birthday, which was very interesting that they broadcast it till later on. I mean, kind of weird, but the important part, I got to see it. Now, as I said before, they do have a ring, but they're in a junkyard. Our first match, we have Lunatic Extremo taking on Big Effin' Joe. Now, one thing that's interesting, I don't think anybody in the Mexican fan base in Zona 23 has ever seen a guy like Big Fen Joe, the way he's wearing his ring attire. If you guys ever seen Big Effin' Joe, he looks like he's wearing a diaper or, his little whiteys, you know what I mean? So, I don't know if they've ever seen that, but it has been very effective. But Effin' Joe did not play in the game, so he actually defeated Lunatic Extreme with the Tomb Breaker, just like that by any. That's what Brett Lauderdale calls it, the Tomb Breaker. Now our next match we have Bam Sullivan, or as of course the Mexicans like to call him, Bam Bam Sullivan, taking on one of their top stars in that promotion, Arrow Boy. So yes, Arrow Boy is a big name. We have seen him on a few occasions in GCW, and I know he's been in various promotions involving death matches. So that sort of thing has been said. But it was a very interesting match. I mean, Arrow Boy is one of the most impressive wrestlers, but it was the big splash that allowed him to pick up the win against Bam Sullivan. So just like that. Now, our next match we have Lunatic Fly, who is in fact the brother of Lunatic Extreme. Yeah, we can guess the names Lunatic Extreme and Lunatic Fly, they're brothers. But a Lunatic Fly has to deal with Ciclopse, who is not only familiarized with GCW, but of course he is the hometown hero down there. But he represents GCW. That's always been one thing we've been knowing. But nonetheless, Ciclopse will always be someone that many fans can get behind, especially in the Mexican wrestling fan base. But it was eclipsed with a lariat to put away Fly 1, 2, 3. So that gives GCW a bit of a lead right there with the wrestlers. But right now, their next match, we have a guy named Venganza, which means revenge or vengeance, taking on Miedo Extremo. So it was a very interesting match. However, there was something in this match that kind of caught the attention of both Nick Gage and Brett Lauderdale, where there was a roll up by Venganza onto Miedo. But there was a moment where you can see that either the, how do I say, Miedo Extremo kicked out exactly the right, maybe I don't know how to say in timing where he kicked out, but the referee counted 3. So basically, Brett and Nick Gage are not happy with that, but they kind of realize that that right now with GCW up in the head, that kind of puts it in a good in a bad way. But we'll see what happens. Now our next match, this is a title match from their promotion, the Zona 23 Championship in a death match. Jimmy Lloyd versus the champion Cyberpunk. Of course, Cyberpunk, from what I hear, it was observing, he's the heel in the group, but in the entire promotion. But of course, there was moments where the referee, like he was counting slow. Even Brett Lauderdale and Nick Gage witnessed that. But unfortunately, it was, of course, a pinfall by Cyberpunk to Jimmy Lloyd to pick up the win and retain it. And of course, Brett Lauderdale was not happy how this thing ended in a way. Now, our next match is the GCW Ultra Violent Championship. Ludruk Shaitana versus Rina Yamashita. So this was gonna be an all women's death match, if you if you know what I mean. But it was brutal no matter what. They were using all kinds of plunder in this one. But they used a car hood in the match. Yes, someone went down into a car that was in a junkyard and pulled out the hood, used it as a weapon, use it however you want it. But it was Rina Yamashita that used it when she applied the Splash Mountain on Lundruk to retain the belt. Our main event for this match, we have Pagano versus John Wayne Murdoch. Man, Pagano, he is unbelievable wrestler. He's really fun to enjoy. But it was a brutal match. But there was a moment where, of course, John Wayne Murdoch, looks like his legs were giving up on him. So Pagano used the advantage of applying a figure 4 and hoping with that could put him down and force him to tap out for this match to end by submission. So yeah, that's how this whole thing ended. I'm sure that there was some matches that, of course, Brett Lauderdale and Nick Gage were not happy with because of the ref. I mean, they did have Scarlett, one of their refs, down there too. I don't know if anybody else was there, but yes, so that was the whole thing. Um, Hopefully, we get to see more of Sona 23 in the future. But right now, let's keep moving with our next review, and I believe that is Holiday Special. Okay, more with GCW, so let's go with Holiday Special. This took place on the 21st of December. It opened up with Azrael, who is on the naughty list, taking on Gringo Loco, who is on the nice list. Yes, so I'm going to be revealing who's on the naughty list, who's on the nice list. So that's how it is. But it was a pretty good, impressive match. However, you thought that Azrael might have thought this match would have fallen in his favor. But somehow Gringo Loco was able to apply the base bomb without him suspecting it and picking up the win. So he gets a nice Christmas present in the end. So well, he didn't actually get it, but you know what I mean. Now, this is a very unheard of type of match. As I say, there are people who will be mentioned who's on the naughty list, on the nice list. Well, these two have been on the nice list the entire time, and I don't know why they were booked in the same match. We're talking about one called Manders and Masha Slamovich. Now, you probably would agree. Yes, it doesn't make no sense that they're both in the nice list and they have to face each other. It's supposed to be the naughty list versus the nice list. But who cares? Because the match itself was intense. Now, keep in mind, Masha Slamovich is one of the most impressive wrestlers we've seen. Not to mention, she has faced the toughest male wrestlers she's ever stepped foot on. I mean, Nate Gage, Mike Bailey, Sammy Callahan, many others. So how would that be any different? Well, it's not, because it was Masha Slamovich who walked out as the victor when she applied a driver onto Juan Manders and picked up the win. Now, this match is for the JCW World title. We have Braden Toon taking on Jordan Oliver. Now, this is a very interesting match. Now, Braden Toon could walk away with the JCW World title, but Jordan Oliver was putting up a hell of a fight against him. But luckily, it was the Cloud Cutter that made the real difference for him to pick up the win. But however, someone on the naughty list decided to spoil the fun and attack Jordan Oliver. We're talking about his former friend and member of the Young Dumb and Brokes, Griffin McCoy. As you know, Griffin McCoy, who's felt a bit of jealousy towards Jordan Oliver since becoming the top guy. But luckily, the only ally currently Jordan Oliver has is Charlie Tiger, who gave him a helping hand. But you know that sooner or later, Jordan Oliver and Griffin McCoy will have to cross paths with each other again. Next match, well, we have Mike Santana. Yes, Mike Santana. He was on the naughty list taking on Alec Price, who's on the nice list. Now, there was a bit of a debate about Alec Price on that, saying that he's been a naughty boy in the past, but since he's been improving on himself, somehow he ended up on the nice list. But I can tell you, this was one of the most impressive matches I've seen so far. Now, I've always been impressed with Alec Price, but the way this match was delivered was something I never expected. But it was Mike Santana who picked up a pretty good win when he had tried a rack power bomb. And then at the end of this match, he went close to Alec Price, shook his hand. I don't know what he said to him, but I think Alec Price earned his respect. And that's something. And of course, Veda Scott said, can we switch Mike Santana to the naughty list to nice list? I mean, yeah, I mean, we could. But yes. Now, we have a very interesting tag match. We have Jeffrey John and Bobby Flyco, who are both on the nice list, taking on the ones who are on the naughty list, but they're right now the most hated individuals in GCW. We're talking about the rich and powerful, known as Charles Mason and Richard Holiday. Now, as you know, Richard Holiday, for some odd reason, he aligned himself with the most scumbag of the earth. Yes. I mean, he's not my scumbag, but he is a scumbag of the earth, knowing that what he does. But of course, this match was going to fall in their favor, and then they decided to beat down on both Jeffrey and Flaco for no apparent reason, despite that the match was over. So yeah. Now our next match, we have Marcus Mathers versus Joey Janela. Now Marcus Mathers, I can tell you, he's an impressive wrestler. Now, most of the time we have seen him involved with Wasted Youth, but him stepping up in singles competition, that is not rare, but not a whole lot we've seen him as singles competitor. But I have to say, him facing Joey Janela was going to be a very interesting match. But in the end, it was, of course, a somewhat of a razor's edge through a table by Janela to put away Mathers in the first place. Now, in the post match, all of a sudden, Joey Janela was attacked by someone. It was later revealed to be AJ Francis, formerly known as Top Dollar. That's right. We know that he will be at Tampa in GCW later on in this month, but he made a statement of what he was planning to do, and of course he doesn't care and all that. But we'll see what happens until we get to that day. Next up, we have Mike Bailey, who is on the list, taking on, well, people could say he should be on the Knights list, but Broski Jimmy Lloyd, but people are declaring he's on the not naughty list. But of course, whatever what's his name, Cardona told him read something off of a cell phone, saying all this and that, and of course I don't know if Jimmy actually embraced the Broski way from that moron Cardona. Well, we don't know, but it did not stop Bailey no matter what, because you know how Bailey can be a bit relentless in the ring, but it was the Flamingo driver by Bailey that put him away. Now, before we head to our main event, Effie comes out to give a promo to explain what happened at the highest in the room with Warner. So he understands what is going on in Warner's head. He tells him, I get it. You're frustrated. You're frustrated because you're not at the top of the game and all this. And he felt, and and the problem is he thinks that he believes that what he did to him was an act of cowardness. So, but Effie said that he's going to enter in the do or die Rumble match and compete in hopes that he will get one day a title shot for the GCW World Title. But however, he did put out a good statement. He did pin Blake Christian. That means he could potentially have an opportunity. Now, jumping into the world title match, we on the naughty list is Blake Christian versus Santa Claus, but in reality, it was Big Vin involved in that. But of course, Blake Christian was going to play dirty no matter what. But it was a figure four to put Santa Claus away. Then he decided to humiliate Santa even further until Nick Gage showed up, gave him a piece of his mind, but he told him that he's nothing more than a big pussy for walking away, because he told him, if you claim yourself to be champion, then stand up against me. But he did state it that he will be coming for him for that belt. So if I'm Blake Christian, you better have good tactics, because if you don't, then, you know, that's what you are. So I think that's it with this particular show with GCW Holiday Special. I believe we're doing right now the Nick Gage Invitational 8. Okay, Nick Gage Invitational 8. This took place recently on the 30th of December. Now, keep in mind, the winner of this tournament will get an opportunity to face Blake Christian at Aftermath, so you got to pay attention to that. Now, all of our matches involved in this are death matches, just to make perfectly clear for everyone. That's how this whole thing goes. Now, we start with our opening round matches. Our first one, we have Masha Slamovich versus Emerson Jane versus Risa Serra. A pretty good match, I have to say. Not gonna lie, I was impressed. This one is called a ultra violent jungle that of three, jungle of that of death three way. So that's what they call it. Of course, there was gonna be, but not to mention, Risa Serra brought her fan tubes to be involved in this. But in the end, it was Masha Slamovich with a package power driver onto Emerson Jane, and she advances to the next round. Next up, we have a barbed wire warfare three-way match. We have Jimmy Lloyd versus Jacob Fatu versus John Wayne Murdoch. Now, on a note here, John Wayne Murdoch was the winner of last year's Nick Gage Invitational. But yes, so the obvious question does tell: will John Wayne Murdoch pull off another win? Will he be back-to-back winner of this? Well, in this particular case, it was him who picked up the win with the well, you call it the Canadian Destroyer. He calls it the Deep South Destroyer. He applied it on who was it, Jimmy Lloyd? Yeah, on Jimmy Lloyd, and just like that, he advances into the next round. Next up is a City Glass Death Match: Shane Mercer versus Miedo Extremo. Of course, there was going to be a lot of glass involved in this one, a lot of tower glass and all this stuff. This was going to be one of those matches that you know is going to be bloody and murder. But in the end, it was a razor's edge of somewhat by Medio Extremo onto Shane Mercer to pick up the win and walks away as the winner. So he moves on into the next round. Our next match is a board of brutality death match. We have Ciclopse versus Violento Jack. Now, this was a very interesting match. Not because I say so, it's because there's a story behind this one. Violento Jack and Ciclopse, they both knew each other from their time with the promotion DTU, Desastre Total Ultraviolento, which is a promotion where deathmatch runs by Crazy Boy. That's how they knew each other from the end. But during a Japanese tour, Violento Jack turned on both Ciclops and Miedo Extremo, saying that he abandoned the family from Mexico and accepted his new family in Japan. So this is more like internal family matter in their way. But it was Violento Jack who walked away with a package pile driver. Then he decided to put a world of hurt on me on Ciclopse. But luckily, it was what's his name? Uh, Miedo Extremo who came out to help out his cousin Ciclopse because this is not over. Because later it was revealed those two will meet in the semifinals. Now, our round two matches, we have the final, uh, I don't know what to call it, final destruction, Masha versus John Wayne Murdoch. You know this is gonna be another brutal type match because I said all matches are death matches, but it was John Wayne Murdoch once again with the Deep South destroyer that put away Masha to advance into the finals. As I said before, can he pull off a second win of the, in an engaged invitational? Well, we'll see. However, our next match is an Escalera de la Muerte match between two former friends, Violento Jack and Miedo Extremo. Like I said before, history amongst these guys. But of course, Violento Jack is determined to win. But at the moment when referee was knocked out, Ciclopse came out to help out his cousin because he knew the kind of person Violento Jack would do to ensure this match falls in his favor. But it was, of course, a swanton by Miedo Extremo to Violento Jack to pick up the win. He goes to the finals against John Wayne Murdoch. Now we have a non-tournament match. This one is I think a six-way, yeah, a six-way scramble match. We have Mike Bailey versus Jordan Oliver versus Gringo Loco versus Mr. Danger versus Cole Radrick versus Joey Janela. So there's like a bit of a all-star issue type match. You probably would have guessed, but everything was going crazy. However, it was Jordan Oliver with the 8 acid bomb on Mr. Danger to pick up the win. Now we jump into the finals of the Nick Gage Invitational 8, Miedo Extremo versus John Wayne Murdoch. This was a glass ceiling 2.0. Now, basically, there's glass everywhere, like in a building type setting. You go through that, so there was a lot of things that can go wrong. Even people could die from this type of match. But Miedo Extremo and John Wayne Murdoch took it to the extreme. But it was, in fact, Miedo Extremo with a big power bomb to John Wayne Murdoch to win the match and win, and of course go to the finals. As soon as the celebration was going, Blake Christian shows up and attacks Miedo Extremo, who will not tolerate the fact that someone could easily take away. But all of a sudden, Shane Mercer showed up and helped Blake Christian. We don't know what's going on. But however, there was a moment where, of course, Blake Christian used a chair on Ciclops to make Miedo Extremo watch. But you know that they will meet each other at the next day at Aftermath. So let's move on to that particular show right now. So we have our last and final review with GCW Aftermath. This took place exactly on New Year's Eve. Our opening match is the GCW Tag Team titles. We have Violence is Forever taking on Wasted Youth, Austin Luke, and Dylan McKay. Pretty good match. Now, keep in mind, Violence Forever has been making a statement as a tag team since winning these tag titles. But however, Wasted Youth, I did not know from the very beginning that now that they added more members into their group. Originally, it was a tag team. It was Marcus Mathers and Dylan McKay, and now they have Austin Luke and another person. But it's fantastic to see now that they're growing. I mean, they are a very fantastic group. Not gonna lie. But however, the brutality that the Wasted Youth had to deal with Violence is Forever was total brutal. But somehow, Violence Forever were able to retain the titles when they put Dylan McKay in a chokehold by Guarini, and of course, McKay had no choice but to tap. Our next match, we have the Bad Child, Leo Rush taking on a Ratty Daddy, Cold Roderick. You can tell this match was so good, and not to mention we don't know how much ring rust real Leo Rush is because we haven't seen him for quite some time. We know he's been injured many times over and over and over. But it was Leo Rush with the final hour that put away Cold Roderick to pick up the win. Our next match, we have the GCW Extreme title. Emerson Jane facing off Joey Janela. I have to say, I never seen Emerson Jane. Now, I have seen her on Pro Wrestling Eve, but this type of match, hell no. One thing I did like is, of course, there was a moment where they both flip each other when they're, of course, like they're telling them, take your best shot. That's exactly, but the way I like it is Emerson Jane was the one who knows that there's a possibility she could lose or so she flipped him off and took her out, and then tried to double stomp to retain the belt. So I thought, damn. And Mr. Jane, I never seen her that much in death matches, but I have to say she took it really, really well. Next up, we have Violento Jack taking on Speedball Mike Bailey. Yes, this was going to be a very interesting match, but not to mention, I'm sure Violento Jack would probably take his frustrations out on Mike Bailey for not winning the Nick Gage Invitational tournament. But of course, no matter what Violento Jack tried to do, it did not put away Mike Bailey. He's tough to take out if you were able to defeat him. But it, of course, the ultimate weapon failed Mike Bailey to put away Violento Jack, but luckily it was the Flamingo driver that was the real deal maker to put away Violento Jack, and 1, 2, 3, adios. Next match, we have the women's taking on in a death match. We have Charlie Evans versus, of course, the the ghost the the death match ghost of Hiroshima, Risa Sarah. Man, of course, you know Risa Sarah's reputation. Living your pro, she treats the death match as an art form. I thought this was gonna be interesting. Of course, people were backing up Risa Sarah. I mean, I'm a fan of Risa Sarah. Not gonna lie about that. But she used the fans on her and all that. It took everything. But however, Charlie Evans applied the Ocean Cyclone Suplex that put away Risa Sarah to pick up the win. And of course, Evans tried to gain respect for her, but they flipped each other off. Well, that's how you do things in their world. Now, our next match, this guy was supposed to be at the Nick Gage Invitational, but was unable to make it due to the flight. We have Daiju Wakamatsu taking on John Wayne Murdoch. So basically, he faces against a veteran. Now, Wakamatsu is a very young wrestler with a bit of a less experience, but he's been recognized a lot. But unfortunately, he did not pick up the win because apparently he passed out in the match. Don't ask me how. I think he might have choked out or bled out. But nonetheless, that's how it ended. Now, our next match. This one is for the GCW World title. We have Miedo Extremo taking on that scumbag, uh, Blake Christian. But of course, Christian was going to have Shane Mercer at his side to ensure that this match goes in his favor. But there were going to be, of course, manipulations by Blake Christian to make sure this match goes up. Even Cyclopsa got involved in a way when Mercer gets involved. But apparently that did not stop anything for Blake Christian to ensure he wins the title and maintain it. That's what he's been doing for. So it was a smart idea for him to have Shane Mercer, but dissatisfaction by the fans because they want to see someone finally take that belt away from him. But sooner or later, someone will have to do that, but don't know when. Now, our next match is a do or die Rumble match. So this is where those matches where you have too many wrestlers. But however, uh, let me reveal how this elimination went down because this is a long list of people. This went up to almost 48 minutes. Tony Depp eliminates Tara Zapp, but Joshua Bishop eliminated 5 people in a matter of less than a couple of minutes. He eliminates Rico Gonzalez, Bam Sullivan, Philly Mike, Everett Connors, and Hunter Drake. But however, Broski Jimmy Lloyd eliminates Braden Toon, and this one made me laugh when I watched it. Steph the Ladders! Yes, the the bitch who actually was happy to require him. She thought that he was gonna listen, but it kind of said it's every man for themselves. But however, it was short lived when Jimmy Lloyd was eliminated by Alley Catch. So that's something unexpected. And then of course Jordan Oliver eliminates his former partner and friend Griffin McCoy down the line. So Sawyer Wreck eliminates the a-hole Tony Deppen, but Kevin Koo eliminates Alley Catch. Then after that, we have Effie who eliminates Dominic Green and Kevin Koo. So he got rid of both. Violence Forever. Not bad. And then, of course, the Ciclops eliminates Bobby Flaco. But all of a sudden, Shane Mercer shows up and eliminates a bunch of people like Jordan Cruz, Mr. Danger, or Jordan Oliver, Cole Radrick, and then Sleepy Ed. Yeah, Sleepy Ed was involved, even though he was asleep. Then Bishop eliminates Manders, but it was Sawyer who eliminates Joshua Bishop. But, well, then of course Bishop eliminates Sawyer. I think they eliminate themselves. I don't know exactly. But we do see Shane Mercer eliminates 3 more: Ciclopse, Masha Savage, and Miedo Extremo. But it was Effie who eliminates Gringo Loco. Then Effie eliminates Shane Mercer. Now, we thought that this match ended with Effie winning. But all of a sudden, Mance Warner shows up, eliminates Effie. So basically, he got away with it. But the tensions between those two continues on. So yes, we'll see those two somewhere down the line. Now, our main event, we have Deathmatch legend Jun Kasai taking on the leader of MDK, the king himself, Nick Gage. So you know this is going to be a bloody murder type match, no matter what. I mean, Nick Gage, who we known for many years as one of the most deadliest guys in the ring, in death matches mostly, will go on again, the guy who's done it all. But in the end, it was Jun Kasai with the big splash onto Nick Gage to pick up the win. So, yes. I have to say, it ended with a good year for GCW. But, of course, Nick Gage probably is disappointed he did not win. But Jun Kasai, who's well respected in the world of deathmatch, he got the win. So I think that's pretty much it what we have for all of our GCW stuff. As I said before, there will be no news updates for today, so let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode coming up. It's going to be Tuesday Wrestling with, hopefully we do have NWA Power and NXT. I think NXT will have New Year's Evil, I believe. Um, we did have the recent Pro Wrestling Noah show. Features some interesting matches. I'm making a judgment call about Noah and All Japan Pro Wrestling and other things. And there's still some. Just recently found out there is a seedling event from December I haven't seen yet, but this one features Cherie. I will decide how this goes. There's 2 more Choco Pro shows that just recently came out right now on YouTube. In case you guys want to check it out, I did have a subscriber asking me where you can watch it. If you guys are fans of Choco Pro, go on their YouTube channel, check out. Go to Got to Move Pro Wrestling. They have it right there. So yes. But we'll see what happens for the next episode. But for now, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.